In this video, first we are going to modify our transfer page so that we transfer from only the user that we log in as. So to do that, we actually need to change two things. So inside our transfer page, let's open it in the edit view. Remember that we have this form to get the user ID from, and it's called from list. So we were choosing the ID of the user. So instead, now we would like to get this ID from some other value. So we will get rid of the from list. So let's go to the main window, and in here let's go through macros and then edit macros. And for the ones that are attached to this database, we would like to look at the transfer function. Let's find that one. I guess that was called this button sense. And remember, in this part we have a from ID, and we were getting this from the list, but instead this time we would like to get it from our main form. In the main form, whenever we log in, we are keeping our user ID in this text box. And one thing that I would like to change, so maybe let's first change that thing. One thing I would like to change is whenever I go to the other forms, I don't want to close my main form, because in my main form, so this is actually opening it, sorry. Whenever I try to close the main form, I would like to comment out those lines. So whenever I go to the transfer page, I would like to still keep my main form open, because in my main form I am going to keep my user ID there, and therefore I don't want to close it. So I just got rid of the lines that are saying close main form. Now I keep the main form open. Then I can get some value from my main form. And for the send button, remember we need a from ID. And this from ID is going to come from my text box in the main form. So I'm going to write get value of, and this value is in my main form. There I have a text box called UID, get the value out of that form. And this is going to be my ID. Actually, let me first print that ID to be sure, so whether it gets it correct or not. So I'm going to print this ID for now first. So to check it, I need to go to my login form first. I open my login form and Joe pass, I log in. So it says the welcome message, and whenever I go to the transfer page, I still keep this main form open. So that's one thing that we changed. And let's say I choose somebody, I enter amount. For the other side, for maybe on this side I choose Greg, and on this side I choose James. Let me actually enter some correct amount. And whenever I click on send, it says me 3. So the user that I log in as is number 3. That's why. So therefore Joe should become 52 whenever it updates. Successfully send it to James. And in Joe, we actually lost much more. So we need to fix that as well. Joe was, I think we decreased it as a text. Was it the case? But I'm not sure. Let's check it actually. So one thing first I would like to change in the TP form. So if I open it in edit, I don't need this list, right? Create a transfer page. I don't need to know which user that I'm sending from, because I need to send it from the user that I log in as. But one thing I can include is my amount. So if I double click on this one, let's call it CA for current amount, or maybe CA is actually shorter for me to remember. So let's call it CA. And I don't want this to be editable, so I'm going to choose read only as yes for CA. And whenever I open this form, so remember, where do we open it? It's in button go to TP. Whenever I go to TP, in this part I would like to put my current amount. So similarly, not SQL to control, actually this is going to be set value to. In the TP form, I have a text box called CA, and for that value I would like to put my value, my money, right? And to do that I can use this get value from Sql function. So let me get this one and I will edit that one. So we were at this part. This part, okay. What I would like to do is set CA to my current, I guess that was called, let's check it in the tables, in the customer, it's called credits. I would like to write my current credits there. And to do that, I am going to use the get value from Sql function. Let's call it current credits. And it is going to be coming from the customer table. I need to insert my surname there. Sorry, it's not my surname. I would like to get the credits from the customer table, and it is going to be for the user with ID equals to. So in this part, instead of saying the return value, this value is going to come from the result of the get value of function. Inside the main form, I have a text box called UID, and in that part I wrote my ID for the user that I log in as. Get the value from that part, and my condition in my query is for these IDs to match. If those IDs are matching, I return the credit amount. And remember, this is going to be a number. Current credits is a number. To put that into a text box, I need to append an empty text at the beginning. So this is going to set the current credits of this user. Then in the button send part, when I try to send some money to some other user, I successfully see that the from ID is correct. So then we can just get rid of this part. So if from ID is correct, then actually the rest of the thing was working, but with one difference. So in the part that we are checking the other things, for the from amount, we were getting this from the text box, from the list box. In the list box for the third item, remember, for each of them we show the ID, the name, surname, and the price or the credits. We were getting this value from this list box, but no longer. We do not have that list box. Therefore, what we need to do here is we are going to, for the from amount, this is going to come from this text box called CA. So now, in this part, what I need to do, so cint was converting the value to an integer, and since in the text box as well we store strings, we need to convert it to an integer, but I'm going to say get value of, and that value is going to come from the TP form, and in there we have a text box called CA. So I get that value And for that value, I just, whenever I open this TP page, TP form, I set that value using the get value from SQL function for the current user. So it should be correct. I know that it should be correct, and I made it not editable. Therefore, I can get that value from there, convert it to an integer, and this is going to be our from amount. So then the checks will be done, and then so for this part does not have enough credits part as well. So we were getting this value from the list box, but now it is going to be for the current customer. We can just say you do not have enough credits. So this is checking whether I have enough credits or not. Then we calculate these amounts and we make the updates. And while we are making the updates, the IDs are in the form of from ID and to ID. And for the from ID, we already set it to the correct amount. So from ID is already coming from the main form. It's the UID. So it should work fine. I'm saving the macro. And now I will, we saved that as well. I will go back to my login form. Let's log in as somebody, Diana H3Y login. So I logged in as Diana Rook. I go to the transfer page. So one problem, what is it? It says from lists not found in parent. So in some part, I guess we wrote the wrong thing. So let's check it. So in my macros, I guess in some part, we are typing the wrong value. From lists. I guess we forgot to delete from list in some place. Okay, this part. Whenever we update the lists, in this part we forgot to remove the from lists. But since it's still running, I need to get rid of this message. I need to close this one. So we do not have the from lists. So that from list will be gone. Also, we may want to update the CA text box as well. So remember, we are setting the value of the CA text box. It displays the current amount. So to display the current amount correctly, I need to update its value, and that new value is going to be new from credits. Remember, from amount. So from my amount, I decrease the amount that I would like to transfer, and this is the new amount of credits that I have, and in this position I'm going to show it. So let's check it again, starting from the login form. Diana H3Y, H is uppercase, we logged in. Let's go to the transfer page. Okay, controlled from list not found in parent. This one, let me again check the code because it triggers whenever we go to there. So these two, okay, the problem is we also forgot to remove the from list from here as well. So there is no from list anymore. Then let me click on OK on this part. Then I need to get rid of every code that refers to from list. So there is no from list anymore. So I'm going to save this again. We can continue, but let's start from beginning. Diana, the password, login, welcome, go to transfer page. Okay, now it says the value TP is invalid. In the set value function, it says there is no TP. Because in the set value function, let's check. In the set value to function, we need the form, the control, and then the value. we give the form name, form control value. This is the form name, the control name, and then the value. But the function was called set value to, right? So sorry for that. Actually, I'm having trouble recalling the function names that I made up. So it is called set value to. So I guess you would be better than me in remembering those names. So let's, for one more time, let's go to the login form with Diana with the correct password. We log in, go to transfer page, and now we see the current amount of Diana, and we see all these users, all these other customers. Let's send money to Joe, for example. And one thing as well, I cannot edit this text box. I cannot increase my money. Let's send 2 to Joe. So I choose Joe. I enter the amount as 2. Click on send. Successfully send it to Joe. Again, okay, one more TP that I need to get rid of is in here. So not TP, actually. This is for the function name. I wrote the function name incorrect. So let me go to the transfer page. But we just couldn't update the money display, the credit display. Other than that, it functioned correctly. So let's send to Joe 10. Successfully send it to Joe. My current is updated. I also see myself in this to list, which is okay, but Joe increased by 10. I guess I wasn't checking, but let's see that Joe is increased by 10. Okay, let's try to enter some huge amounts. So if I try to send 200 to James, I do not have enough credits. That will be the display message. So we can include some additional return back to menu button here, but I can just close this form as well. This main form is still open. That's one important thing. So let me log out from this user. Let's log in as Joe and with pass. If I log in, if I go to the transfer page, now this time I see the value for Joe. And then from Joe, I can send to other people, for example. So this is something like I'm showcasing the scenario. If this scenario was included as login as a customer, send money or list the existing customers in a list, choose one customer, enter some amount to transfer money to, and one error message I'm showing is I cannot send more money than I have already. And one other thing is maybe if I don't enter any amount here, I can display error messages. So it is saying amount should be larger than 0, for example. And let's also include one additional form. And in this new form, what I would like to do, I would like to buy something. I would like to list my products, list the existing products. Maybe I could have also, I could show what I have already. And I would like to choose one product, enter some amount, and I would like to buy that product. So actually that is that's why we have this example database, right? To buy something, and let's do that. So I'm going to create a new form, and in this form I'm going to have a list box. We actually did not talk about combo boxes, but they are very similar to list boxes actually. Combo boxes just display one row at a time, and list boxes can display all the rows at a time. So they are used in the similar way, and you can go with the list box in all cases that you need a combo box. So combo box is just for saving space actually. So let me have this list box. In this list box, I would like to list the products that are in our database. So I will add a new label there, and let's say product lists here. One important thing that we need to remember, if I would like to show the results of an SQL in a list box, Then I need to go through form and then form properties, and in the data part, for the content type it should be table, and for the content I need to choose one of these tables. Any of them is okay for us, but I need to choose one of them. Otherwise I cannot display the results in a list box. So we already mentioned this, but this is something important to remember. If you forget, the function will not list anything in the list box, and it will not give an error as well. So that's maybe why we need to be careful about, because if it was giving the error, then we can find out the cause quickly. But if it is not giving an error, then it's hard to find where we did the mistakes. Maybe it's better to follow it from the beginning to make it correctly. So for this list, I'm going to double click on it, and let's give the name as P list. For the product list, I'm going to list my products here. And whenever I choose some of these products, let's say, I would like to also have an amount text box. So in here, let me add another label, and in this label, let's write amount. This is how many of this product I would like to buy. And I also include a button. On that button, let's write buy. And maybe if you would like to also show the price, you can have additional text boxes, etc. Or you can display the price in a message box. You can print the price, for example. All of them are okay for us. So other than that, actually this is enough for the functionality. So for the amount, let's call it the text box amount as well. So we have plist and amounts. So I'm going to save this form, and let's call it the buy form. And if I would like to also show the things that I already bought, maybe that's also something to do. So in this part, let's call it AB already bought parts. I guess I will need to check the names afterwards, but in this label as well, let's write products in baskets, for example. Let's say we have them stored in this basket, for example. So we save this form as buy. So maybe buy form would be better, but let's just keep it with the name buy for now. So let's write the subroutine to go into that part. Let's call this go to buy. We are going from main form. We don't need to close main form. Remember, we keep the user ID there. But in here, let's do openf for the buy form. We open up the buy form, and in the buy form we need to set a bunch of things. So one thing that we would like to do is actually we would like to put the existing products into the list box, and I'm going to write a query to do that. And then in the buy form there is going to be again a plist for the product list, and I'm going to put this Q1 there. Actually, this is going to be the exactly same thing, because remember, we already made a list for the products, but in that part we were not buying, or we were not associating them with the existing user. Now whenever we buy it, we will associate it with the user. And in a similar way, I actually have some other list box, and it's called already bought AB. And for this other query, I would like to put something there. And that something is going to be actually, this time it will be from the, so if you check the tables, we have buys table. It's going to be from the buys table. And actually, actually, if we look at the buys table, for some customer, we are listing the products with their amounts. And actually, to show the product name, we can join it with the product table as well. So in this step, I guess it makes more sense to get this from there so that we can design it in a better way. So I would like to select a bunch of things from the buys table, and also, so this is one table, and I also get the product table, and I have a condition. So my condition is for the user ID. So if I check my buys table, I have customer ID there. So this customer ID should be equal to something, and for that something I'm going to include some different variable. So let's call it user ID. So I want this customer ID to be equal to this user ID in my query, and let's say this is my second condition. My other condition is the join condition. So I would like to join these two tables, so buys and product tables. In product table I have PID, in buys I have product PID. So I need to say product PID should be equal to PID. I don't need to specify the table names because they are different names. So PID in one table, product PID in the other table. If these were the same, I need to also explicitly say which table these are coming from. So in this part, I have two conditions. The first condition is the join condition. Product PID should be equal to PID. And the second condition is for only showing the products of this customer. I'm going to use a variable UID. I need to fill this up, but that should be equal to the customer ID in the entry. So the customer ID in the entry should be equal to the UID that I give. I include two different tables. These are buys and product tables. And then I can project PID. Then I can project the P name as well, because P name is in the product table. PID is as well in the product table. I can additionally also show the amount. So after this one, let me write, instead of the price, I would like to show the amount. How many of this I bought, and maybe one additional thing. So I can also show the total price whenever I buy these items. So let me, in the SQL query, let me add up this dash symbol. In the SQL, we are using these symbols to add this dash character. The reason is that we would like to show multiple things inside the list box. So in this part, I can multiply the amount with the price of this item. And this PID was additional. We have to have a secondary column in the list box, otherwise it does not function. So if I did not make any mistake, this should run correctly, but let's check it out. So this is our Q2. I just need some UID. And that UID is going to come from the main form, right? So I'm going to say I have a UID, and this UID is stored in my main form. I would like to get value of, inside the main form, there is a text box called UID. Get that value out of there. And this is going to be, So this is going to be a text, right? And in this part, I can directly write it since customer ID is a number. Otherwise, I need to include the single quotations as well. Then this should fill up the list box that I have there. And then actually, I don't need to do anything else, I guess. Let's try this. So I can just directly run it to test it, given that it is not already open. Let me close it. But one problem, I need to go there through login process, because the main form should have some UID in it. Then actually I cannot directly run it from there. I need to go through the login form. So let's go with Joe and pass. Let's try to log in. Now while this is open, I can run it, because the problem is I did not include a button to go into this page yet. But if I check, it shows that I previously bought one soda. And maybe Joe was not that good of an example. Maybe we can go with somebody else that bought more products. If I check the buys table, for example, user number 1 bought multiple things. So let's log in as user number 1, who is James123. So James123 login. Welcome James. I need to include one more button to go to that page, but for now let me just quickly run it here. And for James bought 3 soda, and I see the total price, and the price for one soda is 20, so the prices are showing up correctly. We just need to include the buy option, but that's going to be let's first correct the main form. In the main form, I need a button. Actually, the thing that I wanted to say is that that's going to be including some additional details to buy something. Go to buy page, let's say, for this one, because in the product page we are updating the price. We are actually not buying something, right? This is going to be to go to buy page, and I double click on this button. Whenever I click the mouse button here, it will run a macro, and that macro is called, actually previously we were formatting the macro names better. That's going to be called go to buy. And in the buy form we can have some button to close that form as well, but we can just close that form directly using this close symbol. That's no big deal. So now I want one more subroutine by choosing, let's say. Let's say user chooses some product from the list, and I would like to buy this chosen product. To do that, first I need to know which product is chosen. So remember, we previously used a similar function. Actually, I'm going with the easy way to get that function, to copy it from that existing one. It's not this one. Actually, we were updating the price with that button. Okay, this one. So we had this update one, right? And we have the get value of index function, and this is going to return if the list box contains items with dash separators. This is going to return one of the indexes. So let me actually grab this one. Actually, this was some easy function. I did not need to copy it. Okay, for the by chosen, I need to look at this by form. In the by form, I have the p list for the product items, and if I get the value from the first index, that index is going to include my PID. Remember, I have PID in the first one, then the dash symbol, the product name, p name, and then the and then in the product list, not this one, I have the price of that item. And whenever I would like to buy it, I just need to get the PID first. So this is going to be my PID for the product that I would like to buy. The other thing, I also need my user ID, right? And for the user ID, I can just get the value from the main form. So this is going to be my UID. And given these two values, I need to first find out whether I bought this product earlier. Because in the buys relationship, for example, for customer number 1, if I want to buy product PID 1 again with some different amounts, I cannot insert this data because the primary key of this table is customer ID plus product PID. Therefore, this 1 cannot have duplicates as together. I cannot have any other 1. So the thing is, if this product is already in my basket, I would like to actually increase the amount. I don't want to insert a new entry there. But if it is not in my list, if I'm as customer ID 1, if I'm buying product number 5, for example, then it's not going to be an update, but it is going to be an insertion. So that we need to determine. And to determine that, I need to use my get value from Sql function. So this is the thing that I would like to use now. And let's write it as it is for now. It is going to be from the buys table. And for this one, I just want to find out whether it exists or not. So what I return is not going to be that much important. But let's return from the buys table. Let me check it what we have. In the buys table, we have customer ID, product PID, and amount. For example, actually the amount could be something that we would like to get, right? If that is existing in our buys table. So then in this part, let's retrieve the amount from the buys table. And our condition is going to be for this customer ID. So I'm going to write here customer ID. I want this customer ID to be equal to my UID. And one important thing for this, again, since this is a string, it should include the single quotation marks. For PID, for PID and UID, these are numbers, right? Okay, then I don't need the single quotations. So I can just say customer ID equals to UID. And I also want at the same time for this product PID to be equal to the PID, my attribute or the variable PID. So remember, in here I get the PID and UID. PID is the one that I choose from the list. It is in the first index with the dash separators. UID is coming from my main form. I store my user ID there for the user that I log in as. And then I get value from the SQL. And this is going to get me the value from the buys table. It is going to retrieve the amount. And for this amount, I have two conditions. It should be for this matching customer ID and for this matching product PID. And I need to store this amount in somewhere. Let's say both amount for this one. This is going to store the already bought amount if it exists. So I'm going to say if both amount equals null. Then what this means, we did not buy this product before. We need to insert. In the else parts, we bought this product before. We need to update. In the projects, you may not have some such conditions. For example, you might be only adding to the basket, only adding to the order. You may not need to update the amount that you have stored in the order. But this is just for the sake of example. In this case, let's say we need to sometimes update the amount in the both list, for example. And this is going to be the end if part. So this is our logic. In these two parts, we just need to include the corresponding queries, and then we just need to run those queries. So if we need to insert, if we did not bought it before, what we need to insert? So let's try to write it. So we would like to insert into the table that is called buys, and we would like to insert the values. These values are going to be in order. So let's check the buys table, customer ID, product ID, and then the amount. So this is going to be UID, PID, and then the amount. But this is going to be our string, and remember, within the string we need the two double quotations, and these values are going to be actually parameters. Therefore I need to append them to the string, and we have this commas in between. We need to attach the string as well. We did not define amount yet, but we are going to do it soon. And we need this one to finalize our SQL query or the values list. And each of these is a number, so we did not include any single quotations there. Going back to our macro, this is our did we have any other queries in here now? So but let me rename let me name it as Q3, because we are going to have other queries here as well. And then at the end, whenever I buy something, I would like to update the basket. So I'm going to use this Q2. I'm going to copy it from there. It's no big deal. I can just write it as a different name as well. But first let me check the SQL function. So it is called query, and then I give the SQL. So whenever I'm buying something, I just need to run this query, Q3. But one thing, UID is something that I set. PID is something that I set. But this amount that I would like to buy is not determined yet. I need to get that value. I'm going to write amount. This amount is going to come from my text box, get value of, and it is included in the buy form, and it was called something, and that something I forgot, and I was saying that I will forget that. So I need to look at the buy form. I will edit it, and in here my amount box was called amount. Great. And here I have a text box called amount, get the value out of there. And this amount should actually be some integer. So I can say convert it to an integer, and I guess it was called like this, but let me check it to be correct. Okay, it's cint. It's correct. So I'm going to say this is going to be an integer, because from the text box I get text. Actually, in this part, since I'm going to attach it to the string only, actually I don't need to convert it to an integer. If I wanted to make some checks, for example, in the product table, there is no stock amount. But if I had a stock amount and if I needed to check whether I can buy this many or not, then similar to our transfer money logic, I can use it as an integer. I can make the following comparison operations, and then I can run the query. But in this one, I don't need to make such thing. The other option, if we bought this product before, we need to update. And how to update that? So I need to write a new query here. This is going to be my update query. Let's call it some other query. It can remain as Q3, but let's call it something else. So this is going to be, this time, what I would like to do is to update the buys table, and I would like to set the amount to be equal to the amount that I have in my code. So this is the second one, is going to be the attribute. It's not inside the table. It's not the attribute name. It's actually the variable, sorry. And my condition is going to be for the customer ID. This customer ID should be equal to UID, and at the same time we have a product PID, and this product PID should be equal to the PID that I'm giving as a parameter or the variable. And while we are setting this amount, actually I would like to set it to the summation of the already bought amount plus amount. So I previously already bought some amount. This is stored here, and I'm buying some more amount, and the amount is going to be the sum of these two for this product and for this customer. And this is going to be a string, and for each of the attribute names or the table names, I need to include the double quotations. Since it is within a string, I use two of them. And this UID is actually coming from out of the string. So I need to append this UID. UID is a variable that I store in BASIC. Therefore, I cut the string in here and I put UID in between. And in this part as well, instead of directly saying PID here, I need to cut the string, append PID, and then cut it back to replace it with something, but there is nothing else at the end of my SQL query. Therefore, I can just append PID and then I will be done. And for the both amount and amount in here as well, I'm going to do the same thing. Cut the string here, append both amount, append this plus sign, because this plus sign is actually inside my query. So I need to include this plus sign. So this is my plus sign within the quotations, and then I append the amount, and then I append the rest of this string. And this is going to be my new query now. Coming back to here for Q4, this is the thing that I include. What I include is update buys, set amount to be equal to both amount plus, this plus is in the SQL. We could have calculated the sum first and then just give one value. That's also okay. But then we need to convert these things to integers. So be careful about that. And then this is going to be updated for this customer ID and for that product ID. we already set PID and UID and both amounts, but we just need to get the new amount. So for getting the new amount, I can also include this at this part. I get the amount and then I run this new query. At the end, what I need to do is I actually want to update my bought list. So the list of items that I already bought, I would like to update that list. And this was the way of doing that. We had the query before. I just included as an additional item here. So additional checks that we can do, we can check whether the amount is a positive integer, for example. That's one thing that we can check, but I'm not going to do the check. I just save this one. Going back to the forms, I will edit the buy form whenever I double click or whenever I click on the buy button. So going into events, mouse button pressed, events, I would like to assign a macro to this event, and that macro is going to be called buy chosen. So let's close this one. While we are buying, we do not decrease the money that we already have, but if you would like to do that, we can also do it through the things that we have seen in the transfer. In the transfer, we are able to decrease some amount from the user. In this part as well, we can decrease some amount from the user, and that amount could be equal to the price of the product that we are buying times the amount that we are buying. So it might be actually a good exercise if you would like to do it. But if your project topic does not include anything like that, you don't have to implement such things as well. So now I'm going to close these ones, save this, and I should start from the login form. Let's log in as Diana, for example, with the password. Welcome, Diana. Let's go to the buy page. So Diana previously bought a soda and bag. Let's buy some shoes for Diana. So let's buy 5 shoes for Diana. So it's a new item in the basket. So let's also buy some TV, maybe just one of them. And then let's say I would like to buy more soda. I choose soda there. I previously bought 1 soda. Let's buy 4 more. If I click on buy, I buy 4 more. Let's buy 4 more. So using this, I'm able to add new items to the basket. One thing I can do easily is to remove items from the basket. So you can choose one item, get the UID or PID for this one, and for the matching UID plus PID, I can remove that item from my list box. So this will be easy to do. So if I close, I can go to the buy page again. My items are there. Maybe I want to transfer money. I can go to the transfer money page, and this is still for Diana because Diana's ID is here, and I'm getting the ID from my main form, and I'm not closing the main form in the process. So that concludes our discussion. Actually, this is not like a discussion, it's like more like a tutorial, but we are going to also include the finalized version of this, and then we are actually done with the things that we would like to introduce to you. Then what we need to do for the project is to do similar things for your topic, for your databases actually. And the demo will be something like 5 minutes. You just start from some form, go through your scenario, and then that will be it. So see you later.